Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at a really interesting bag, the Inateck Sling Bag X Modo. Now, the Modo designation is strangely not on Inateck's website, but it is on Amazon where I purchased this from. So for the purpose of this review, I'm going to be referring to it as that. Now, the reason why this bag is really interesting is because this is a direct take on the Caddy sling bag. If you saw my review of the Alpaka Vertex, that is pretty much what this is. Now, this is not a direct copy. As a matter of fact, they took a couple of steps forward and really improved on the Alpaka Vertex in quite a few ways. So a lot of the issues that I had with the Vertex are kind of solved by this bag. So what I'm going to do is just do like an overview of all the features and do some loadouts and talk about like actual comfort and day-to-day usage scenarios, things like that. But before we get into it, I will mention briefly, as of right now, there are no affiliate links for any of the products that I review. There might be some coming later, so stay tuned for that. But for right now, any review that you see on this channel is purchased personally by me. So if you like what I do, you want to see more reviews, and if you want to help support the channel, make sure to like, subscribe, and in the description below, there is a link for Buy Me a Coffee. That would help tremendously in supporting the channel and things that I'm doing going forward. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the review. So on the front here, there are no pockets, no organization here. I will say that this is similar to the Vertex, that there's no pockets or organization on the front. I do wish that they had put one slim pocket here in the front. Now, I'm going to get into this a little bit more later. I understand why they didn't, because this does fold down and just magnetically close right there. But I think for people who aren't going to fully utilize that mode, I think it would have been nice just to have like one slim external pocket here for papers or things like that. So nothing on the bottom, no kind of carry options or anything like that. On the back, we do have a slim pocket here, and this has no organization inside. And this is one change that I really, really love and was sorely missed on the Vertex. The Vertex only had a grab handle. By the way, this also has a grab handle here, and I actually prefer this one. It's a little bit thinner, a little bit smaller. The one from the Vertex was really, really big and chunky, but they've gone a different direction here, which I think was the correct one. And then this is where the strap attaches, and I'm not crazy about this strap placement, and I will get into that a little bit later when I talk about like the comfort of actually wearing it. Now, the strap itself is really, really nice. It does have a similar buckle to Wandered. Now, if you saw my review of that, that I wasn't crazy about these buckles, and I'm still not, just for the fact that if you are not a fan of the strap, it can be a little tough to replace this with something else. Like, it's great that it's completely removable, right? But finding a strap that fits on here can be a little challenging. And in case you're wondering, will a Wandered strap work on here? The answer is it will not. The Wandered straps are a little bit smaller than this. In case you did want to replace it, this is like 1.5 inches. But the material itself is really, really nice. It's this nice seatbelt material, which is really smooth, really comfortable. And then there is a little bit of padding here on the strap. And then you have this quick release adjustment buckle, which is really cool. I like it in theory, but again, it does present some problems that I'll get into later with the comfort. One more thing to mention on the outside, and this is again something that the Vertex is lacking, is a little pocket right here. Now, there's no organization at all, and honestly, this is actually a pretty shallow pocket. 2.75, maybe 3 inches, probably the max that you can fit something in here. I liked to put earbuds in here, but I'm not like fully confident about this pocket, and I'll mention a little bit later why when we get into some carry scenarios. Now on the other side, there is another small grab handle. So I love that they have 2 grab points. That just makes it really easy if you've got this set on your desk to just grab it and go. Or if you have this around you, you can use the strap to pull it to your front. That's really, really great. This material here is like a coated waterproof material, and then the bottom is like a ballistic nylon style material. So I would have, pretty good confidence that this is going to keep things relatively dry, especially with like these zippers kind of being sealed the way that they are. So they definitely did not skimp on materials here. I think they did a really good job with that. Okay, so that covers the external features. Let's take a look at inside. Now, as I mentioned before, there is a magnet here that when you place it in the right spot, it will stick to the front. And the purpose of this is to be like a desk caddy, to just sit at your side, kind of ready and waiting for you to get cables or whatever items you would want quick access to. I think this is a really, really cool feature, really, really unique. Not something I've seen very many bags do. Something I will mention is that the magnets on this bag are not as strong as the Alpaka. With the Alpaka, you could like kind of fling it like that and it would just immediately grab on. And you can see like even me just doing that, it didn't quite grab onto one side. So it's not a big deal, but just something to note that you do need to be a little bit more intentional about placing this down if you do want it in this mode. Now there's quite a bit happening in the interior. We do have a Velcro strap here, and then this does expand way out. You have one big pocket in the back meant for like a tablet, a switch device, something like that. You can actually fit the switch device here as well. And similar to the Alpaka, there is a zip pocket here, a completely flat one. Now, something that I think they did a good job at fixing, Alpaka put some pockets into this slim pouch right here. And I could never really find a use for those slim pockets because they were so thin. I mean, maybe like receipts or something like that, if you wanted to keep receipts organized. I don't know. I personally couldn't really find a use case for that pocket. So I think it was a better decision just to get rid of those and just make it one big open pocket. Now, they didn't fix the dimension of this pocket. It's still very flat, so maybe a really slim power bank, again, like smaller papers, maybe a wallet or something like that can go in there. We're talking really, really thin, slender items. They also decided to get rid of the pen pocket that was here. And they just decided to go with another big open pocket. And I think that was the right decision. If you're talking about pens, I feel like with bags, there's always somewhere you can put a pen. If you really wanted to, you could put it here, and you could put it here on the side. That's an option. To have like a full pocket dedicated only to really a pen that is sitting there and taking up room, I don't know. Again, I couldn't really find a good scenario for utilizing that pocket on the Vertex. But here they've opted just for a big open space. Again, this is very slim, but it does give you a little bit more flexibility in terms of what you can fit in there. They did add some additional pockets here. No organization, but just very slim. I think this could work for maybe like small power bank, cables, things like that. Small batteries if you're a photographer or videographer. If you're looking to organize your cables, you do have these stretchy bands on the left side of the back panel, and then on the right side you've got these SD card slots. These pockets right here are all stitched on the bottom so they don't go all the way through. So if you are looking to put cables, they do have to go into this area. If I was to put that in there, that is a perfect fit for an SD card. It is a little unfortunate that they decided to stitch all of them. I would have liked it if they would have left maybe like the last row or something free to put cables all the way through. But if you've got something maybe like a power bank here, or you have a lot of cables to take with you, I guess the answer to that would be to put it, you know, into this middle area here, or even the bigger pocket. You know, it can definitely go in there. You can fit more cables. But if you're someone who likes to have a dedicated spot for everything, and you're not a videographer, photographer, you have really no use case for these SD card slots. In the front, this is just a big open pocket, just like the Vertex. Now, unlike the Vertex, they decided to go with 2 mesh pockets here. And I really love that. I think that is great. Now, on this front flap, there's just one big open zippered pocket, 8.75 inches. It's probably the max. And then height, 3 inches, something like that. So, I mean, like I mentioned about a pen earlier, you could even put a pen into here. You could put sunglasses, more cables. Now, a big difference between this pouch and the Alpaka is this pouch does not go through to the front. There's no way to access this pocket at all. And as far as like the interior materials, they're really, really nice. This is like a ripstop nylon type of material. And of course, I love the gray, the light gray, so that way when you're putting darker items in here, they pop out. And also mentioned on the back, this is like a really soft, plush, almost like a microfiber material. It's really, really nice. All right, so let's go ahead and load this up with some items, and I can kind of show you how it works for some different scenarios. So I'm gonna start with an iPad mini, and this little strap here can actually Velcro into 2 spots. But besides a tablet, we can also get, this is a Switch OLED into here. It can resist you a little bit slipping into there just because of the Joy-Con thumbstick that sticks out. But you know, I'm not like forcing it in there at all. So now I can put that strap to secure both of those items. Now, what if I wanted to take a camera with me? Now, this is another area where it differs from the Alpaka. This was not really possible in the Alpaka. Now, the reason for that is that this pouch is a little bit wider than the Alpaka. So you absolutely can fit, like I would say that this is probably, if you've got a tablet and you have a Switch or some other mobile gaming device, like the X106 is probably the max that you're going to fit in here, 3 inches or so. If you have something thinner than that, or if you maybe have like an A6700 or a small APS-C body where you don't have a lens, you know, then absolutely, you know, you can fit the body and then maybe a lens right here. And let's say I want to do pen. And something I forgot to mention earlier, there actually is a key leash down here, and this is permanently attached, so you can't take that out. But if I wanted to do keys, there is really no dedicated pocket for this. You know, maybe I could squeeze them on the side, you know, but that's just me and my kind of minimalist keys. So if that's not your situation, you have bigger keys, then probably the area to put them into is going to be this pocket here. And let's say we're going to put that into that pocket. I have a really, really slim power bank here, the Taurus MagSafe power bank. So this is where it starts to get a little interesting. I can just squeeze it into there. I've got a couple of SD cards in there. And if I've got a full enough day, you know, I can also get an extra battery for my camera. You know, maybe it can go in there. But if you're not crazy about that, you can always put it into that little pouch here. And then at some point, once I get inside, I'm not going to need my sunglasses anymore. You know, so maybe sunglasses go into that pocket. And then on the back, wallet. And if I wanted to take a small pocket knife with me, you know, maybe something like that, or I could slip it here on the side. Now you may be wondering about earbuds. You probably could fit it somewhere in here, you know, especially if we're talking something like this, like some Beats earbuds. But like I mentioned earlier, I think it actually works fine right in this little side pocket. Now, something I'm not crazy about with this side pocket is this side pocket doesn't really inspire confidence in me. Because it's so shallow, you know, it doesn't go down to the bottom of the bag. You know, it has this angular cutoff right here, you know, and that does like kind of keep with the overall styling that they have with this bag. I would have really liked for it to go all the way down, because you can see the earbuds are sitting right there at the top. It's fine for like going around the city, just like light walks or something like that. But I can imagine, you know, if you've got a smaller object in here that maybe could float around a little bit easier, this is not exactly like the most secure. And I'm just gonna try something crazy here. I mean, maybe you could even do something like that. Keys, and then it goes into this little side pocket. It just makes your keys a little bit more easily accessible. Then if they were to fall out, you do have the security of this. So that's something I would have liked to have seen done a little bit differently, is a little bit deeper, or maybe even like another magnet or something that could close, you know, just something to give you like a little bit of extra confidence. And you can see like how this is kind of coming into play. I don't know if you noticed that, but like getting that to stay closed, when it's packed out like this, it gets a little bit harder to make sure that that stays closed. Like I said, these are not the strongest magnets. But even if the magnets don't hold it, you know, it still kind of keeps its shape. These zippers do go down pretty far, you know, so if that's really your thing, what you want it to be, then it can do that. Just the magnets might not hold. Okay, so what I've got here is the Lumix S5 2X. This is a pretty big, bulky camera, and I do have like a half cage on there from Tilta, but it will work to slip right in there, and I can even fit one of the Lumix S prime lenses, the 50mm, right in there. And that absolutely does work. Now, you don't have like any dividers for camera gear on the interior, and truth be told, trying to fit some dividers would be a little tough, just because the space is limited inside of here. But maybe you could get like one piece of a divider and just stick it in there, just to keep things from bumping around a little bit. There also is really no padding on the bottom of this bag. If you saw my Toshi Sling review, this has a little bit of a thicker bottom than the Toshi Sling. Like the ballistic nylon, and then the material that's inside is pretty thick, but I wouldn't call it padded. So that's something to think about if you are considering using this as like a camera bag. If you wanted to maybe put like a couple of lenses in here, and then you've got your camera on you, I think it totally works for that. Or maybe you've got like one big camera lens. Let me get some measurements here. 9.5. And then again, the width from earlier, you know, still like, if you don't use these back panels, 4 inches, I would say. So you do get more space if you don't use those back panels. Now, what if you didn't want to use this for your cameras or lenses? Instead, you wanted to use it as a tech pouch. So here's the PGY tech pouch. The difference here with the PGY tech is there's way more of these stretchy loops to put more cables in. You know, as I mentioned before, you've only got like these 4 stretchy loops right here. And then maybe you've also got something like some filters, you know, that can go into the back pouch maybe. And then you've got some more cables back here. Cables up front, you've got an area, lots of area for SD cards. And then maybe you've got just like a bunch of little sound dongles, you know, something that I carry with me. You know, maybe that goes up front. And I also like to have a little multi-tool with me. And that could go in here, or that could even go on the side. So you definitely can make it work for something like that. You know, this is definitely big enough to accommodate lots of like little items. So, you know, it may help to get one more like smaller, thinner pouch just to hold more cables. And then again, if we're talking about a smaller APS-C camera, you can even fit the APS-C camera in there. Something that you cannot do with a tech pouch like this. So that is another option to consider. All right, and one more thing that I will look at. I'm not really a headphone guy, but a viewer did request to see how this works for headphones. So this is actually a gaming headset, the Arctis 7X. If I put them in that flat mode, and I kind of squish one of the ear cups down, it can fit in there. So if you have some headphones that are in that 6.5, 7.5 inch range, then just taking a look at depth here, 4 inches or so, and you can fold them in, they'll fit a little bit better, or you can try and fold them into themselves, or obviously if you have headphones that completely fold in, then it will be a little bit easier to fit those in here. But I definitely could still fit like an iPad. I think putting a switch in here is going to be a little bit of a stretch, but we'll give it a try. Yeah, it is a little bit of a stretch. I mean, I can't really get it to close all the way. So if you're not doing a tablet, maybe you can put the switch in the back panel, close that up, and then headphones in there, and that should work out just fine. Okay, now usually I don't spend a ton of time talking about like the actual fit of a bag. You know, like fit and comfort can be a very personal thing. I'm 5'7", 145 pounds, so what I'm experiencing may not be exactly what you're experiencing. But I did think it was important to mention in this review, just because this is kind of one of the only times where I've really struggled with the comfort of a strap in terms of its fit. And that's going to be for two reasons here. Primarily this buckle right here, and then the way that these buckles attach on the back. So first off, I will say that the mechanism here is really nice. You know, like you can very quickly undo that and then clip it back in, you know, and there you go. You've adjusted the width or the length rather of the strap. But just for me, personal preference, I like to have slings kind of sitting like at my chest, maybe like at or even slightly below. And then same thing for my back, you know, just kind of sitting like mid to upper back. But anytime that I tighten this strap enough to get it there, what ends up happening is the padding, which is really meant to sit on your shoulder, ends up just going to my back. And then this clip, it's big enough and chunky enough to where I can definitely feel it. Yeah, it's not that big of a deal if I was just doing an hour or two, but this is not something that I want to feel for an extended period of time. You know, you're doing a street photography day, you go out in the morning and you're not back until in the evening. You can like change the orientation of these, but again, no matter how I did this or changing the orientation, like I just couldn't get it to a spot for me that was really, really comfortable. So the best that I could find was to put it like this. The padding is now on my shoulder. This is on my upper chest. I mean, like I said, it's fine there for short periods of time. But again, it doesn't quite sit where I would want a bag to sit. Also talking about like how the bag itself sits on your body. These straps here are, as you can see, not on the corner of the bag. They're kind of like into the back wall panel. Now they are angled, so that's great. But with this back panel location, what ends up happening is if you're wearing this as, say, like a messenger style where, maybe you've got it on your hip, what ends up happening is the straps will start to sit at like a 90-degree angle. And this is not really the most comfortable. In order to get the maximum comfort out of this bag, where the straps are sitting like this, angled up, you really do just kind of have to have it sitting on your stomach, just flat, low on your stomach, or flat like on your back. Okay, so let's do some wrap up and let's talk about who I think this is for. How can this fit into your daily carry? Well, the first and foremost usage, that the way that they are envisioning this being used, is in that desk caddy mode. This bag really solved a lot of the issues that I had with the Vertex, just kind of solving like some of the interior pockets and the additional space width going this way, the addition of pockets here, the additional pocket on the back, a much smaller, more comfortable carry handle. Like, this kind of just hit all of the right notes in terms of fixing the issues with the Alpaka Vertex. So you just have to be aware that these little pockets here are dedicated SD cards slots. So if you're looking at this as like a desk caddy tech pouch kind of thing, you're just going to get like these straps here. But you do have some additional options with the interior, like accordion pockets to put more cables and things. So if you're not dissuaded by kind of losing some of the functionality here, then I think this can work really, really well as a desk caddy. Now, if you're looking at this as maybe like a travel sling, right? Like road trip, spending a long time on a plane, it's pretty rare for something in this size range to be able to fit a tablet, a switch, and a camera, and whatever kind of essentials you might need. Now, if you want to use this as maybe like a camera bag, if you're a videographer, like, you can use it like that, but just recognize that there are some size limitations in terms of what kind of camera bodies you can fit into here. Definitely smaller, like APS-C style cameras are going to work better in here. Or, if you were taking this out on a shoot, maybe a couple of smaller lenses or like one extra big lens. And then you do get the benefit of some of this extra organization. Now, the big caveat with all of those use cases is really going to be the comfort issues that I talked about. Again, I will mention that this was just for me, my personal experience. So I don't know, your body type may be able to work with this a little bit better. So it may be one of those things that you're just gonna have to try for yourself and see if it works for you. I do feel though that I'm not sure that I would want to wear this on me like all day long. For me, like, this bag never really disappeared when I was wearing it for longer periods of time. I definitely always knew that it was there. Not to say that it got uncomfortable, but I do think that if you are planning on using a sling for an extended period of time, comfort is going to be the number one thing that you should be looking at. This is going to work better for smaller trips. You're going out for a couple of hours to do a photo shoot, or maybe you're just taking this straight from home to the office, and then it's just going to sit there in caddy mode on your desk for the rest of the day. So just to wrap things up, I do want to mention again that everything that I do on this channel is self-supported. So if you like my reviews, you like what I do, you want to see more, then go to the description down below and hit that Buy Me a Coffee link. And also make sure that you subscribe, hit that like button. It really, really does help a lot to let YouTube know that people like this content and they want to see more. So I will see you all in the next one. Take care.